Hello everyone, I'm Derek Niewaner and I'm one of the graduate students taking this ADPR 834 Digital Insight and Analytics course with you this semester. As this slide suggests, I'll be giving one of the guest lectures for this week. The article I chose to bring before you this week I found on adage.com titled Sharing Data Easier Said Than Done for Brands. As a side note, not only can you find this article at the link I placed in the original Blackboard post, but if you pause the video here, you can read the article at the link provided at the bottom of this slide. Some key aspects of this article that I thought I'd point out include this short excerpt that states, report notes that nearly half, 47% of technology decision makers in North America and Europe found partner data important. That's up from 30% in 2012. Quite a significant increase, 17% as far as the sharing of data and its importance in the branding world. The second one comes a little further down in the overall article, and it states that not only is it difficult to isolate potential data partners, but most marketers are reluctant to reveal the types of data they collect, much less express a desire to share it. I found this one interesting just because it kind of goes against everything we've been reading in the book Click by Bill Tanzer, especially about Web 2.0. I like to use Wikipedia kind of as the case study for Web 2.0, how thousands of individuals are providing information to that on a daily basis, and how it's kind of a congregation of all that knowledge and experience coming from different aspects around the world. So really this kind of excerpt kind of contradicts that knowledge, and they're kind of fighting it. It's kind of more like a Web 1.0 where they're just kind of giving information rather than using information and kind of using ideas across boundaries between partners. So I thought that was very interesting. What does this all mean? First and foremost, it means consumer data is vital to any brand's success. If you aren't in tune with what the people want from you, there's little chance for you as a brand to be successful. I think we all understand that. We're all higher level advertising, marketing individuals. I think we understand that. I also think we have all been programmed pretty early in our advertising careers that the world of advertising and marketing is one of intense competition. In many instances, brands are fighting for the same group of consumers, and in this battle comes that competition. However, I think it's also important to understand that even partners within a given brand can find competition. When it comes down to whether or not your division lives or dies, I'd bet you would protect any advantage you think you might have, and that might also be data that you've collected or your division has collected. With that, this article identifies that data sharing, even among partners, can be difficult, even though the tech decision makers, the ones who are dealing with the technology and getting that information, know it is important to share between partners. And our job as digital communicators and analysts is to find a way or ways to make this data sharing process less constrictive. I think that's the most important part of this article. In order to draw a more complete picture of the consumers we are attempting to reach and target, data sharing really is a must, especially between partners within a brand. How is it relevant to this class? First and foremost, in this class, we're learning how to effectively get data. Particularly, we're learning how to get the information we want. And furthermore, we're learning how to use and leverage that data. So we're not only learning how to get it, but we're learning how to read it, how to analyze it, how to use it to our advantage in reaching the specific consumers and what's driving their behavior. And finally, as our syllabus states, this course explores how various channels of digital communication can be used to analyze audiences, connect with them, and ultimately build brands. Focusing on the building brands aspect of the course description, I would argue that sharing data among brand partners in essence aids in said brand building. How can you build a brand if not all partners in that brand are talking on the same page, are using the same information, are sharing the same information? In Click, which we have all been reading, I thought this particular excerpt serves to explain the importance of data sharing. It reads that over time we have seen an increase in the sophistication of the searcher. The number of words per query, always have difficulty with that word, has been steadily increasing over the last 4 years. This shows that internet users are becoming more comfortable with asking more of their search engines. Now, obviously, we're not dealing with search engines in particular, but as this states, the knowledge we have right now tells us that searchers, aka the consumers, are getting more and more advanced in their online searches. So as the researchers, as the data analysts, the branding personnel, the technology personnel, we need to get more advanced in how we are going after that information, how we're finding that information. And in essence, there's not enough. You have to be able to ask others. You need more points of view. The more data you can collect, aka the more sections of it you can see, the better picture you're going to have. So what are the implications of this article and what's it talking about? First, it means that we as digital communicators might be tapping into relatively small amounts of data. Imagine the amount of data that might be available if we get more inclusive with the sharing of that data, specifically with our partners within the brand. In the lack of sharing, we may be subjecting ourselves to what I term tunnel vision, in that we feel we have all the information we could possibly need on a particular subject, but really all it takes is one other person or group or partner to look at that question from a different angle, and you could have a completely new data set of which to use to make your decisions. So really, if nothing else, by including your partners in your decision making, even if they look at the same set of data, they might come from a completely different experience, and they might find something in it that you had no idea even existed. And in essence, this could lead to a lack of brand continuity, particularly across the world and between continents. Tanser, touches on this idea when he discussed popular search terms and how they differed between the United States and the UK. In particular, he discussed how in the US the most popular how-to search is how to tie a tie, but in the UK it wasn't so, and he believed that, because dress codes are more strict in schools in the UK, that most students already know how to tie a tie on a daily basis, which would lead to different, more popular search query topics. For a brand to be successful across the world, in this example, the US and the UK, it's important to have all aspects of the data, in particular, data that may differ across borders, such as the most popular search items. I think it's also important to point out here that terminology we use, even though in the UK and the US our main language spoken is English, they obviously have different words for the same thing that we might have. I believe they call what we call pants. What they would call pants is, I believe, underwear. So they call them trousers. Stuff like that we really need to understand, specifically when we're looking at search data and kind of what our consumers are searching for. So in relating this to a potential client, I leave it in your hands as the capable digital communicators that you are. This class will serve as providing the reasoning for why data is important to make effective decisions. It's your responsibility to make the key decision makers in your organization understand just how important this information is in terms of their overall goals and expectations. By sharing data between partners, you'll be able to better serve your clients, as you will have a more complete picture of the questions being asked, as well as potential answers to those questions. For instance, if you can explain to your client that you're comparing your data to data from another source, particularly a brand partner, you are in effect adding to your own legitimacy, and believability. And I've already touched on this multiple times, but an increased data sharing has the added potential to lead to larger data sets that allow for more informed decisions, more complete pictures to be drawn for those decisions to be made. To finish off this brief presentation, here's a list of the 2 references I used for this slideshow, including the Ad Age article, which I discussed in length throughout this presentation, and then the book Click by Bill Tonser. And finally, with that, I have a question that I'd like each of you to consider and answer based on the idea of data sharing among partners. And that question is, what is one reason that you feel justifies or does not justify data sharing between brand partners? I'd like you to please elaborate and justify your reasoning, and I believe the minimum word is 250 for this as well. via the syllabus. So just keep that in mind. And with that, thanks for sitting in on this guest lecture, and I look forward to reading your answers and discussion on my question. Thanks, guys.